Refine and mask. Well, that's what it used to be called, refine and mask. They've recently changed the name to select and mask. But that little piece of knowledge of history helps to understand the keyboard shortcut. When you go to use it, don't use it yet, the keyboard shortcut on the Mac is Command Option R. Formerly refine and mask. Don't shoot me, I'm just the piano player. PC users, your keyboard shortcut is Control-Alt-R. But you'll find that shortcut doesn't work. It works, but you get a big blank screen and you get very frustrated and you start all over because select and mask, I almost said refine and mask, select and mask only works if you already have a selection. So write that down. This next tip I'm going to show you only works if and after you have a selection. Let me go ahead and create or open an image. Oh, I opened a DNG file. I tried to open a DNG file, and in my system, that takes me to Adobe Camera Raw. And at the bottom, I can choose to open it as a smart object or open normally. I can do either one. It doesn't matter for the demo. Boy, that is kind of fun. Lots of hair. Boy, if I had to make a mask, I might need this next trick. Now, depending on the tool you're selecting, I'm currently in my Move tool, and I want you to look up. When I have the Move tool selected, look up right here. This darkened area is called the Control panel. I don't see Select and Mask. But if I grab a select tool, like the marquee, it shows. So it's letting me know that I work alongside the masking tools, the selection tools, Here we go. Let's go choose the lasso tool and look up. Where'd it go? Oh, it went over here. So it's moving on me. If I click the next tool, the quick selection tool, click, it moves again and it makes room for a magic button, a shortcut actually, select subject. Now it's the same as if I go to the select menu and pick select subject, but there's just a button for it under quick selection. I'll take it. So here is a possible workflow for select and mask. I'm not in a particular selection tool. Step one, I'll grab the quick selection tool. Why? Because I get both buttons at once. Select my subject. I'm just going to wait. I'm being patient. And it selected my subject. Now you already know that it's because of my preference that we set, it's going up to the cloud and it's doing a better job. Can this job be improved? We're going to find out. Now I could just save the selection right now as a channel, but I'm going to sneak right back up and say select and mask. I already have a selection. I must, in order for me not to be frustrated when I go here, have any selection. I happen to have a pretty good one, but it can be any selection. Here we go. Select and mask. Woo! And a little miniature program kicks in. This isn't Photoshop at all. The tools are all different. The bar is different. The panels are different. But let's look at what I've received. It's tried to show me visually that the selection would look like this if it were jumped on its own layer with transparency around it. It's just letting me know that. If you like that view, if you can work with that view, you're cool. You're golden. It's all right. But I want to teach you a shortcut to cycle through some other views if you don't feel like this is fine. If you don't feel like this is fine, hit F. For I don't feel fine. Hit F. Dink. And it cycles through F. Another way to view it. F. Another way to view it. F. F. what have I done? I've done a keyboard shortcut so that my eyes feel fine with what I'm seeing. I've changed on the top right of the panel, the view panel, there's a little drop down. And you can learn, I don't want to, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 7 different keyboard shortcuts to turn on your favorite way to view the mask. I don't feel fine about that. So I just hit what the little reminder says on the bottom. Press F to cycle through the views. F for, in my words, I feel fine with this. So that's all I'm doing. No other magic. F, F, F. And it gives me another way to see how well the selection worked, particularly around the edges of the hair. I'm quite satisfied, honestly, but as I look, I see a couple of nooks and crannies that it didn't quite get. I'm just starting by changing how I feel fine about looking at the mask. Let's go back up to the panel. Select subject was what I started with earlier, but then I said select and mask. But look at the new button, refine hair. Wow, is this awesome? Okay, now I'm going to back out. I'm going to say cancel because I want you to see what this looks like in real time. Now that I've shown you how you might feel fine, I'm back on the main screen. I'm not using select and mask yet. I know I need a selection. Here we go in real time. Select subject. I wait. Next button. Select and mask. I'm just going to pretend I feel fine and sneak right over and hit refine hair. There's hair. Click it. Watch. It just refined hair. It does a super selection with your admission that I've got hair. Go for it. I'll hit F. I want to see what it might look like on a red background. Ooh, that's good. It did a much better job. Now, by the way, you're welcome. You could stop right now and be happy. I wish you happiness. But wait, there's more. If you want to stop and just digest that, you could be done. But there's a little more if you want. There's a tool. The second one down says, I am the Refine Edge tool. R. Remember earlier I said it used to be called Refine and Mask. Here's a little remnant. Refine the edge. And if you see an edge treatment that you don't quite care for, I'm going to do Command plus, just to see. If there's an area that you think could be improved, right now I'm pretty happy. You could sneak over there with that Refine, I'm hovering, Edge brush tool. And the way this works is you're going to create a brush about the size of the area you think it needs refinement. That's a key. You don't want a brush that's too big or too small. You want one that's just right. And so, while I'm hovering over this filament of hair, right here, I'm going to hit my left or right brackets to change my brush size. I make it a little bigger than I need. That's about it. I'm ready, and I could use it right now, and I could be happier. But I want to look over to my panel. Remember settings. I check that because I don't want to reset all of this every time I come in. Remember my settings. I'm begging it to. And you'll want it to remember in particular right here, something called Smart Radius. Smart Radius helps you as you draw over these filaments. It helps to give you behind the scenes the right brush size. It's useful to me. The rest of this I'm going to ignore until I get to the bottom. Let's get to the bottom. And it says output to new layer with layer mask. Output the new and improved selection mask. How? I prefer you ought to also new layer. Give me a new layer, a duplicate layer with a layer mask set to it that automatically has cut this out for me. We'll see what it looks like. But what could I do? I could say, just give me the selection. I'll figure out what to do with it. Just make me an improved selection. Take me back and let me see my improved selection. Or you could say, on the current layer, create a layer mask with all the magic done. Or just make a new layer. Or a new layer with a layer mask. Or a new document. Woo! Or a new document with a layer mask. I'm exhausted. Suffice it to say, in the words of the great Brian F. Peterson, I think you would agree that new layer with layer mask will be your friend. That's what I choose. And because I've said remember settings, that will stay stuck. Now let's play with that brush. I'm just going to run the brush down a piece of the hair filament and see what happens. And it fixes, it updates. Here's another little spot that I think could use a little love. Boom, it fixes it, it updates. Now, if you're looking at this and you're saying, it is? I don't see a change. I might tell you, that's right, because that's how infinitesimally different these changes can be. I told you could already be happy. I'm going to change my brush size. Right in this area here. Now see, I'm going to come along the edge of the major hairline, and there's a little crosshair inside the brush that helps me aim. And what I'm going to do is, as I come down, I'm going to make sure that the total width of my brush extends out to the hairs I'm hoping to help. Do you see what I mean? I'm coming down the major edge of her hair. But the total brush is extending way out to these hair filaments, the edge. So I'm going to aim for the edge of her hair. I'm following my little crosshair, but my brush is allowed to extend out to that distance. And that's how you get a super improvement. You choose the brush size. Along the edge, you consider your major edge, but you choose a brush that says, I want to go out at least this far, Mr. Computer, and help me. Now I'm seeing a little red right there. Now that's not good, because a little red right there tells me it's a little transparent right there. If I had a red background, red would be showing through. That's not good. That's kind of a transparent hole in her hair. So I'll show you one last trick. PC users, hold your Option key. You see nothing change. Hold the Option key to erase the mistakes. Mac users, hold your Option key. PC users, the Alt key. And you can erase that area and the mistake is gone. Now that's confusing to me because I saw a bunch of red. But what it's doing is erasing any mistake. I see, let me zoom up just for your sakes so that you can see there's a little red right there. Do you see that on the hair? So I'm going to hold the Alt key or the Option key and take that away. There it is. So you can hold the Option key to help the computer erase mistakes. That really is everything. I hit Select Subject. I did Select and Mask. I immediately went back and hit Refine Hair, in this case because there's lots of fine hair. I'm refining my fine hair. Speaking of fine, I hit F for fine a couple of times so that I could get a view that I like. Visually, I feel fine when I see that view. For example, okay? I often swap through those, but right now I feel fine. And I clicked Remember Settings. I clicked Smart Radius. I said Output to a new layer with a layer mask. At my discretion, I chose the second tool down, Refine Edge Brush. I told you that I might change the brush size with brackets depending upon the main edge and how far I'm tracing with the middle point. I'm tracing the main edge of her hair, but I'm allowing the brush to go out that far. I'm changing my brush size, maybe out that far, and I'm just going to click and drag along the major edge but it goes ahead and solves or fixes hair out that far. That's everything I've done. I'm ready to hit OK. Let's do it. OK. And what did I get? Let's check it out. I got not my original layer. It was on the bottom. I'm going to hide. I didn't get my original layer masked. No, I got a new layer with a layer mask. That layer mask, that's my mask. Could I make a selection of that mask? Yes. Command or Control click anything, the mask. In order to make a selection out of anything. Now I'm a little anal about these things. So I want to make a selection and I'm going to hang on to it in my channels. There it is. And I can get a good look at it. That looks pretty good. That looks really good. Look at all that fine hair filament. Oh man, I'm happy. But I have it. I'm saving it. Even if I throw away my layer mask, I have it as a channel for future. I'm going to have a little fun. I'm going to click on the background layer, which currently can't be seen. Let me sneak out and find another piece of art. I'm going to go grab something I've previously opened. That's why it's there. It's called Open Recent. I open Recent before I record these just so I have quick access to those for the demo. Oh, it says I am also a raw file. I'm going to open it. I can't see both my docs. I want to see them as tabs. There's one. Oh yeah, there it is. This is the other tab. And if you've asked for my 4 ways handout, I show you 4 ways to combine or composite 2 photos into one Photoshop document. Now right now they're in 2 Photoshop documents as 2 tabs. But way 4 on my handout is the preferred way according to the Adobe manual, but you never figure it out on your own. And that is to get the Move tool, start moving your art. It doesn't look like it's moving. Oh, it's moving to the other tab. Wait for it and don't let go. I always feel like I want to let go right there. Don't. And then drag right back down again into the image. And I just did that. So I just dragged some rust behind the top layer. Why did it put it there? Because I had the background layer selected, and when you drag and drop, it drops above whatever layer was selected. It's not going to kill me. I can still move it around if I want. I could change the layer's placement if I want. I'm just showing you that this cutting out of the art allows me to have her on a new background beautifully. I'm not sure I like the light of the rust, so I'm going to sneak down and add an adjustment layer, the cookie. Adjustment layer of, I don't know, my favorite is curves. It sounds crazy, but I do love it. Curves, and I'm looking for my curve panel, and I'm just going to click and drag down for brightness, right from the middle, or up for darkness, having a little fun, just moving it around. Trying to get my light to balance from my rust background to my daughter. Actually, it's my beautiful daughter, Chloe. Just balancing light. I'm happy. I'm just showing you tricks I might do. One last trick I might do. I'm going to click over the rust. This is way overkill, but it's so much fun. It's pro. I'm going to add a new layer. New layer. I'm going to look over at the bottom of my toolbar and make sure that I'm in black and white. But I want to make sure that white is on top and black is on the bottom. Can you see that? This button makes it black and white, but this one flips the two. And that's what I'm after right here. I'm going to get my gradient tool. I'm going to paint a gradient from white to black. But I'm going to look up into the bar. And I see that I could ask for a linear gradient or a radial gradient. I want a radial gradient for this trick. I don't always use a radial gradient, but for this trick, I want to do that. Now remember, I'm painting white to black as a radial, as a circle, honestly. And so I'm going to start where I'm not on her. I'm not even on the layer that has her isolated. I'm on a layer below her, but it's above the rust. I'm ready. I'm going to start my click on the bright spot of her face, drag it towards a corner, and let go. And it makes a bright circle that matches the light of her face. Now, I don't like that it got rid of all of my rust, but I'm darkening the edges and corners using this trick. Go to the Layers panel, and where it says Normal, I don't like Normal. Did you think I would like Normal? I'm going to pop up on Normal and pick Multiply. And Multiply ought to be called Add. It adds the darkness to the rust. It doesn't wipe it out with white and black paint. It adds it to the rust. The white, I can kind of see where the rust is, but the black is completely pitch black. So I'll also go up to Opacity and start to dial the opacity of that layer down until I make myself happy. So I've got a little bit of a bright spot, as would have occurred if I actually took this photo with flash on her face. The background might have a little different light source behind her face than it would on the corners. I'm just having fun. I can play with my opacity. I'm turning that layer on and off so I can see the before and after. I'm happy. Just a little addition. Why do I want to cut something off its background? So that I might change the background. So that I might float it off the background and change whatever's below it. I'm about to cut you loose. You're done with masks in Photoshop. Almost. I'm going to give you one tiny little extra bonus video as an intro into the next week's section. But here's the great question. Photoshop looks so complicated. There are mask options everywhere. They don't even sound like each other. They don't look like each other. It's convoluted at best because of the long history of Photoshop since 1990. They add, they delete, they rename. It's convoluted, honestly. It's not quite simple. Maybe you're feeling that right now. I feel your pain. I do. Next week is going to be simple. I can't wait. We're going to leave Photoshop. And so you're going to see that someone's going to ask, well, why are we ever in Photoshop? Why would you ever be in Photoshop is a great question to ask. And there are 5 really good reasons to edit in Photoshop. But there are only 5. And if you ask me for my 5 ways handout, Photoshop Big 5. Just write Photoshop Big 5. The big 5 reasons to be in Photoshop. Photoshop Big 5, and I'll send you that. But I'm going to tell you what they are right now. These are the 5 reasons you'd ever want to be in Photoshop. Number 1, to composite more than one photo together. I just did it. I just composited Rust and my daughter. You can't composite in Lightroom. You can't composite in Bridge with Adobe Camera Raw. Next week's lessons. So I have to go to Photoshop to composite photos. You can't cut something out of the background in Lightroom or Bridge with Adobe Camera Raw. So cut something out of the background. It's called clipping. You could clip something from the background. That's a valid reason to be here. You could create artwork from scratch in Photoshop. You can't create artwork from scratch in Lightroom or Bridge with Adobe Camera Raw. Create artwork from scratch. Cloning. Wait a minute. I can clone or blemish remove or scratch fix in Lightroom. I can also clone in Bridge with Adobe Camera Raw. But here's what you can't do. You can't super clone. There are some heavy duty cloning tools in Photoshop. And if you need heavy duty cloning, you're here. Now, what have I told you already? Composite, clip out of the background, create from scratch, cloning when it's heavy duty, 4 C's, and a T. Sorry, type. You can't add creative type in Lightroom or Bridge. Now, you can add a watermark. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about fancy headlines, body copy. You can't add type in Lightroom or Bridge with Adobe Camera Raw. You got to go to Photoshop to do that. So 4 C's and a T, those are the reasons why we would ever want to be here. And because we ever plant a foot on this real estate, Photoshop, I have to understand and learn to use the convoluted landscape of masks in Photoshop if I want to go pro, if I want to do it in a professional way. And if I'm a pro amateur, what I'm saying is, as an amateur, I want the best results. And if somebody buys one of my photos at an art show, cool, I'll do that too. I'm a pro-am. You want to do the right job the right way. That's why we've spent so much time in Photoshop, 2 weeks worth, because we got to do that to get to the landscape of masks in Photoshop. I hope it's been helpful to you. The next bonus video is short. Take a quick peek at that, and then we're going to release the next week's video, right, on Friday. Thanks for hanging with me. Bonus 5 coming up.